Hi everyone. It's small amount of us today. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, but probably more people will join as we go. I just wanted to welcome everyone to the Equilibrium Knit Along. Thank you for joining me again, or for the first time. And lovely to see some of the familiar faces and some new faces. Welcome everyone. So this is the second year I'm running a Shetland Lace Knit Along. Last year we had three different projects. One was a Shetland Lace shawl for very beginners. It was Minagami. The second project in that knit along was Marvels of the Sunless Sea, which
I remember. Yeah.
of a pattern. And the third one was the Sorcerers by Paula Kibiltis. So just the administrative thing. I muted everyone for now. I would love for you all to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining from, if that's your first time participating in this type of knit along, or if you already have done a few. Anybody wants to start, just raise the hand. There is like a hand reaction there, so I can call on you. Patrick.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
Um,
I'm so glad you're joining.
I'm kind of going in hardcore because this is my first ever lace project. I've not even done any lace in any kind of garment or anything like that. So, but I'm really excited because oh, I should probably say who I am. Patrick, I've been going by John lately, but yeah, I've been a knitter for about 15 years now, and this is my first lace project, as I was saying, and I've got this cashmere silk from I don't know if you can see the color very well because of the light the way it is, but it's kind of like a grayish silvery brown, very light. I wouldn't call it quite cream though. And
Is
it's
that from
beautiful to work with.
Calamar?
It is from Color Mark. I
And
also picked up this the other day, the two over 80 nanometer merino silk.
well, Patrick is a
Super
very
cobweb.
brave knitter. So he never knitted lace, and then he jumps into like the thinnest possible yarn. So it's going to be interesting to watch that happening. How did you find I know you had some trouble with cast on. How is it going now for you?
Well, I'm on row 3 of the pattern, and it's good. I've kind of set it aside until this got going. So um, when I'm at work and I'll have more time I'll have a desk and proper lighting to do this kind of work. But yeah, at home I don't really have the setup to really do much. I mean, it's okay. I can kind of see the stitches, but at work I have more lighting, so I can do. And I'm finding it's okay actually. I kind of like the intense focused work on it where you have to really focus on each stitch, you know? I really like that.
I mean, when
And
I started doing Shetland lace, what I noticed, it was right before COVID, basically, when I first tried Shetland lace. And what I noticed for me personally, and I want to hear your opinion, guys, I find when I need something simple, just like plain stockinette, my mind wanders and I'm worried about everybody in my family. I'm thinking about the politics. I'm thinking about like 100 different things. And when I'm knitting Shetland lace, I find it the most meditative because all the worries go away. You just have to concentrate on that chart and you don't have time to think about anything else. Just like you have to ignore the phone. You cannot stop in the middle of the row. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. So it's like, to me, it's actually like very meditative kind of knitting. I don't know if you find it the same way.
for sure. And I love meditating, so this goes well hand in hand with the spiritual practice of mine too.
Right.
So I'm
And we
quite
have a
enjoying
comment
that.
that says, that is so brave to just jump into that super fine yarn. I'm inspired to just order and deal with the stash after I have it. Not
Right?
well, the thing is, I'll have to share the story because maybe not all of you know how I found myself doing Shetland lace. So I was scrolling through Instagram and I found Monique Boonstra's account there. And there was like all this beautiful lace. And I was like, what is it? And Monique said, well, it's Shetland lace. So I haven't heard anything about Shetland lace prior to that conversation. So I figure I'm just going to go to the library and get some books and learn about it. So I'm coming to my local library. They had one book on Shetland lace. It's not even that easy to find the information, right? So the book that they had was Elizabeth Lovick book, Magical Shetland Lace. And on the cover of that book, there was like a shawl with a heart shape on it. It's called the Heart Stole. So I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's cute. Like, I want to knit that. I didn't know anything about gauge. I didn't know anything about fine lace. And I hardly knitted any lace, basically. But I decided, like, what can possibly go wrong? So I jumped in. It was a little bigger than I expected. So the yarn was, I guess, a little thicker than was in the pattern. And my tension is notoriously loose. So when I was done with it, I panicked a little bit, but it's still like, it's probably like 2 meters 20, like it's a little over 6 feet long, but it's sort of still reasonable for a shawl because you can like just wrap it around a couple times and still have the two hearts on the side. So I still love it. I did learn a lot that time, but the thing is like, when I look back, I think the thing that gave me courage is the fact that I just didn't know it was supposed to be difficult. So I just jumped right in, sort of like you're doing now, and it was very manageable. Like it's all one stitch at the time. You just have to concentrate on that chart. So I'll be very curious to watch your progress and see how you're dealing with this whole thing. I want to mention, since Patrick didn't reach row 6, I want to talk a little bit about row 6. So if you look at chart 1A, you have this, and obviously like my chart is totally unreadable in this camera, but like if you look at the chart, there is this little triangle highlighted in yellow. And Monique does the explanation, but if you're still confused, because I had a few people reaching out to me, if you're still confused about it, or if you haven't reached that part yet, what that means is that depending on which direction you go, so sometimes we go from the left to right, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And sometimes we go from right to left. So you look at where the letter S is, which means the slip stitch with the yarn in the front. And so that's the direction you're going. So if the S is on the right, you're going from right to left. If the S is on the left, then you're going from left to right. So the row 6 is the first time we see this triangle with the yellow highlight. And what that means is that the first time you come to it, regardless of where you knit from, like from right or from the left, the first time you come to it, you knit 2 together or do slip, slip, knit, right? Depending on from which direction you come. So it's not double decrease the first time, it's a single decrease the first time. Then when you come to that spot between the repeats, it's a double decrease. So you're gonna have 2 double decreases, and the first and the last decrease is gonna be single decrease on row 6. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so do you have the chart in front of you?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so the row 6 starts on the left, and you're gonna have the knit 2 together through the back loop, yarn over, and then you do the whole row. You get to that decrease, it's gonna be the double decrease. So you basically slide 2, knit 1, slide those 2 stitches over. This is your central double decrease. You repeat that 2 more times, but when you come to it the last time, when you come to the end of that row 6, instead of doing double decrease, it's just gonna be knit 2 together. So it turns at the very last repeat, instead of when you come to that place and you are 3 stitches away from the end of the row, not a double decrease, it's a single decrease.
Okay.
And that repeats, there is like a few of those, right? You can see that every time there is a triangle with the yellow light, it's the same thing, basically. So if it starts, like let's say row 9, it starts with that yellow triangle. It means that you slide 1 stitch, knit 2 stitches, then you knit 2 together. So instead of double decrease, you start that repeat with knit 2 together. Then you do whatever it says for the rest of the repeats. And in the when you come to the end of the first repeat, you do knit 3 together, and when you come to the end of the second repeat or the beginning of the third repeat, you do knit 3 together. So you only do it once, basically. You only do it at the end of the fabric.
The knit 3 together, you mean?
Knit 2 together. Knit 3 together is always going to be between the repeats, and on the edges is going to be knit 2 together when you see this yellow triangle.
When you say repeats, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
The red square that you see, the red lines, they signify the repeat. Well,
I see what you mean. Yeah, okay.
Let's talk a little bit about experience. Can you guys put in the chat if that's if anybody else besides Patrick, if that's your first Shetland lace pattern? Because if it is, then I'm gonna go a little bit more into explaining how to read the charts. I'm gonna say briefly, just if like people join a little bit later. Okay, Angela is first. Okay, so when it comes to chart reading, in Shetland lace, there is no such a thing as rest rows. So in usual lace, when you knit like Victorian lace, let's say, you knit everything on the even on the odd rows, and then the even row is usually you just purl, or you knit the stitches like according how they look, right? So we call them rest rows because there is nothing happens on the even rows. In Shetland lace, there is lace on every row. So there is no rest rows. Every row is a lace row. And basically, the way you read the charts, because it's knitted in the flat, the odd rows start from right to left, and the even rows, you read them from left to right. So in this case, Monique put the letter S for the first stitch being, you slide the first stitch, slip the first stitch. So you know that like whatever the letter S, that's where you start. So you start on the odd rows from right to left, and on the even rows from left to right. The red lines show the repeat. So there is, in this pattern, there is 3 repeats for the border. So there, like the stitches before the repeat, it's just the little edging before the main body, so it doesn't curl and you have place to pick up the stitches for the edging. But the repeat itself shows basically like the red lines. This is the repeat. Basically, like when you think about the construction of Shetland lace, there is 3 main parts. You have your border. And in Shetland lace, the edging and the border is 2 different things. So the border is usually the most beautiful part of that shawl. It's like the most elaborate part of the shawl. And in this pattern, we start with the border. So this is the first border, right? I just finished that. And you can see it's like it's a big part of the shawl, because this is what you're gonna see on the front. Like if you're gonna put the shawl around your shoulders, so if you use it as a scarf, you're gonna see the borders on the front of you. So it's the most decorative part of the shawl. Then after the border, we start with center. And in this particular design, it's 2 equal parts. So it's, you repeat the border and the half of the center design 2 times. and then you graft them. So grafting means you sew them together, two parts. And I have a special video that I did last year, and I'm gonna put it in the Ravelry group in our thread. I'll put the link to that video. So when you get to grafting, just watch it. Even if you've done it before, watch it just to refresh it. It's especially grafting for Shetland lace. So after you graft two parts, you basically have your rectangle, the body of the shawl. And then you're gonna pick up the stitches on the long side, I believe, and start applying the border, the edging. So the edging is like this pointy thing that on the end of the shawl. The border is the part of the shawl, body of the shawl. So we have two borders here, two center halves, and the edging all around the shawl, or the body of the shawl. I'm hoping I'm making sense. Like if somebody has questions, like just raise your hands. Let's talk to Patrick. I'm just gonna switch to other people and see if they want to introduce themselves. And Erica, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello, everybody. This
Hi.
is my first time. This
Welcome.
is my first knit along this, and it's my very first Shetland shawl. But I've been knitting for about 65 years now.
Nice.
And pretty much self-taught in a lot of things. Just learned from books, because when I started knitting, there was no YouTube and that. So I just bought books and learned. My mother taught me knit and purl when I was 5, and I just went from there on my own. But basically, I'm on row 72 now.
Okay.
So this doesn't show, I don't know if you can see this.
No, you don't have the camera on. Can you?
Oh, okay.
If you press start video, then your camera is supposed to start.
Yeah, I see it. Sorry about that.
Welcome.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like much because, of course, it's not, it shrinks up.
Right.
I didn't go out and buy yarn because I wasn't going to spend a lot of money on that. But I was given a whole bunch of really fine. Says it's 2/40
Yeah.
wool.
So this is 2,000 meters over 100
Yes.
grams.
Yeah.
Does
So
everybody know
fine.
how to use the NM numbers? Like if you order your wool from Calamart. Okay, let me explain it quickly while we're here. We're going to have a little bit educational bits and pieces in our conversation. So the NM number, it basically shows how many meters per 1 gram. So 2/40 means that there is the number 2 means that it's ply. It's the number of plies, right? So it's 2 strands of yarn plied together. And 40 means that there is 40 meters in 1 gram. But you have to remember that it's plied in 2 strands. So you divide it by 2. So you have 20 meters of plied yarn in 1 gram, or you have 2,000 meters in 100 grams. So this is how you read the number. Did you have any trouble, like at all, knitting it? Did you run into any questions?
I did, because I didn't understand the errata. I missed out on the errata, and then I just looked and I found that, so that was no problem. And then with the symbol, but it didn't. All I did was I just took a piece of paper, drew a graph, and I just drew the symbols on there. So then I understood what was happening. So I just went from there. So I've had absolutely no problems whatsoever. I haven't run a lifeline. I guess I like to live on the edge a little bit, but
yeah,
I've been knitting different things. I've knit everything from bulky to really fine stuff. And I've knit quite a few lace shawls, but not a Shetland lace shawl. And so knitting lace isn't totally foreign to me.
Right.
It's a fun thing to do. And because I live alone now, my husband's in care, it gives me something to occupy my mind and my hands, so I don't think, like you said, about everything that's going on in my life otherwise. So it's a good pastime. And thank you.
Well, I want to encourage you, if you run into any questions, please don't hesitate to post in Ravelry group. So I hope you all join the Fiberchats group on Ravelry. And please start the project page for this project, because that's going to help Monique to sell her pattern in the future. If there is a lot of projects, people are more tempted to buy that pattern. But in the Fiberchats group on Ravelry, there is a thread for Equilibrium shawl. So just post all your questions there, because sometimes people are also too shy to ask a question, and a lot of people can be dealing with the same exact problem, but they just too afraid to ask and they don't want to look foolish. There is no such a thing as wrong questions, so just ask, because there are some experts in the group. Monique Boonstra is also part of that thread, so she sees your questions. If there is something that technically needs answer, she's there to help us. So like, please put your questions there if you run into anything.
I have one question. How do I join that?
So you go on Ravelry, and
Yes.
there is community tab on the top.
Okay, yep.
You search in the community, you just put Fiberchats. It's one word. And the group's supposed to pop up. So you'll see my picture on that group. And then you join the group. When you do the project page, there is an option of share with the group. So you just share it with Fiberchats group. And there is, when you get into the group, there's like different threads. So there is a special thread for this knit along.
Okay, thank you.
I'm also like always answering my email. So my email is fiberchats@gmail.com. So if you have any questions that you want to just shoot me a quick email, I check it numerous times a day. And I'm also pretty active on Instagram. So if you want to DM me on Instagram, it's also Fiberchats. So I'm easy to find. I'm Fiberchats everywhere. So don't hesitate, just ask questions, because this is all like a place we're gonna not only have fun, but also hopefully learn something new, and we can all benefit from each other's experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Belinda, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, Irina.
Hi.
Now I've forgotten what the question was.
Well, just introduce yourself, because I know you did with me like a bunch.
I've been knitting since I was a teenager. I learned from an encyclopedia. Knit all kinds of different things, other forms of lace, but this is my first Shetland lace. And when Patrick was raving about the pattern, I kept looking at it and I kept saying, I don't need another shawl. I don't want to work with gossamer yarn. And then I decided I'll do it with lace yarn. And I don't want to spend money on another shawl. I don't need another shawl. But I was in Walmart and came across these Lydia crochet cotton thread. So I'm using that, which is way off script. So I know the cotton doesn't have much give. It might not be as drapey. So I've gone up a needle size. This is actually my third start. I'm up to 4 millimeter needle now.
Okay.
I've had a couple of mistakes and the stitches all falling back off, because not being able to resolve the yarn overs before you add more yarn overs is a learning curve. Yeah.
Well, let's talk for a second about the lifelines. So I hope you all know what lifeline is, but if you don't, it's basically when you insert, you can put a cotton thread, like thinner cotton thread, preferably of different color, so you can see the contrast. And you basically insert it in between the stitches and it against your needle. So you have to be careful if you have stitch markers not to sew it in, basically. But if you put that thread through and you need, like, let's say, another 5 rows and you made a mistake, instead of unraveling the whole thing, or if you drop a stitch, sometimes that happens. So you have the place that's going to catch you. So you don't have to like go back to the very beginning, because sometimes it's difficult to like find that mistake or fix that mistake. So you have the place like sort of like to keep you, you know, from getting too frustrated and unraveling the whole thing. When you're new to lace knitting, it's probably not a bad idea to try to put occasional lifelines just to like keep your sanity. There is also, like, if you use interchangeable needles, they're usually a little space in the needle to put the thread through. And then as you need, the lifeline just naturally goes through the stitches, so you don't have to worry about it. So you might want to, like if you have interchangeable needles in that size, you might want to use them occasionally to put the lifeline. It's just easier that way. So you don't have to deal with the sewing needle. It just pulls the thread through.
I put a lifeline back in row 10. I'm on row 12 now, but I used a gray sewing thread, which I can't see. So
Right.
I regret that. I should have used a nicer color, and like I have some of this in another color. I should have used that maybe.
I mean,
But
it's okay, like as long as it does its job, right? Like if you don't care about the beauty of the lifeline, it's just there to
yeah, it stops
help
the
us in
falling any.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I also find that putting stitch markers between each repeat when you're newer to lace can save a lot of trouble.
I've also added this green stitch marker. That's marking my center line. So when I get to the center of the repeat, I can make sure I'm still lined up. So as I go, I'll move that green stitch marker up and just mark the center line.
Right. And another, like if you have a tiny little stitch marker that you can attach to the fabric, I would also recommend to put one on the front of the knitting, because with Shetland lace, it's very difficult to understand which side is right and which side is wrong because they all look the same. So put it on the front for grafting. So when time comes to graft, you know how you should put the fabric. So that's like another tip. Well, did you have any trouble besides like learning to deal with new yarn and like?
I think my biggest problem was figuring out what needles to use. I was first using a very slippery needle, and needle that was too small for the lace, so there was no give. Now I'm on a bamboo needle, so it's not as slippery. The downside of that is my bamboo needle doesn't have a lifeline hole, but that's okay.
Well, I want to mention one more thing. So when you substitute the yarn from what's in the pattern, you basically have to keep an eye on the size of this shawl, right? So like if your yarn is thicker,
and how much it's going to use.
Right. So how do you adjust? The best place to adjust the lengths of, like the width of the shawl is usually not an issue, right? Because you can have a super wide shawl, it's not a problem. So the length of the shawl is where it becomes the problem. So you can easily cut on couple repeats of the center panel. The only thing that's the calculations for the edging are done for the math of the shawl length that Monique does. So when it comes to the edging, then you'll have to adjust. Like you just have to like keep it in mind. It's all very doable. It's not the end of the world. It's like easy math, but like just keep in mind that like when you're knitting the first half, that it's only one half, and that this, the overall length of the shawl is going to be double that plus the edges on both sides, right?
I also had the thought that if it's really, really wide, I can skip the side edging.
You could, yeah. I mean, you could. It's probably like more spectacular with the edging, and it's probably one of the skills you want to learn since it's your first experience.
So to get there.
Yeah, but that's like a decision for future just like keep an eye on the lengths when you get to the center panel. Just keep an eye on the lengths of the fabric. Well, I'm so glad you're joining. So I'm glad that you're going to be part of it. Jane, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I did the Marvels of the Sunless Sea last year. It took me 5 months. I'm slow.
Oh, that's another thing I want to mention. Yeah. This is not a competition. We don't have a deadline. The idea is just to like struggle together, right? As a team. So it can be for different reasons. Sometimes life happens. Sometimes we just have too many projects on our needles. So like, don't think about it in terms of like, I'm slow, I'm fast. You finished it. You have a beautiful shawl to show for it, and you enjoyed the process.
Yes, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I'm not using cobweb lace. I'm using lace weight because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, or my hands, and I'm just more comfortable with lace. But last year when I was doing the marvels, there was a star symbol, and I believe it was the same as this yellow triangle. And I spent many sleepless nights over that star symbol. And the way I remembered to do it, or figured out how to do it, is if it's going to have, if your yellow triangle is going to have a yarn over on each side, it's a double decrease. And if there's only one yarn over on a side of it, it's a knit two together. And after I figured that out, yeah, that was much easier. So
yeah, that's very nice tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
What color are you using for this shawl?
It is called Crocus, and it looks white, but it's got a little bit of purple in it. And I'm not a purple girl, but I like it. So
beautiful. And did you already start with the?
I'm on row 10, and just sitting here just now, I just threaded a lifeline through because I do have a question.
Sure.
On the errata, which I didn't see till after I finished row 3. So I'm just going to continue going because I'm just going to continue going. But I'm going to have to do it again coming the other way on the other side. And I am not understanding. It says the yarn over, then the red vertical line of the repeat, and the knit two together on what needs to be erased? I'm confused.
Hold on, like I didn't even look at it yet. So does anybody have the answer?
I think that the errata was corrected in the new version that Monique sent out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like once you download the pattern, it's automatically.
Yeah, but and it handles that same problem that that Jane was talking about in the triangle. If you look at row 6, it actually has the double decrease in the border, which is where you're going to start. Yeah. And then so it shows you that actually sort of, it supports what Jane's saying, that because there's no extra yarn over in that row, you have to only use the double the regular decrease. And then once you start the repeats, then you have it in both ends, so you can do the double. So anyway, you and I are about in the same category. We both did marvels last year.
Yeah.
And it was my first Shetland lace, and things like that do really hang you up for a while. Right. I should I keep going, Irina, or stop?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'm Kate. I'm Kate Rogers, and I live in Southern California.
And Jane, thank you.
I have one more thing to add. On those triangle rows, your stitch markers move. Yeah. So don't think that you're not counting correctly if your stitch markers are going to move, because boy, was I confused last year.
Right. Yeah. The stitch markers move because it's the double decrease. So it just moves like one stitch basically.
Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you for
this. I don't know if there were other errata, serious errata. Mostly they were just adding the S, weren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was like some missing S also symbol.
Yeah.
But she updated the pattern, so it should be all there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jane. I'm just going to remove the pin. Okay, Kate, let's continue.
Okay. I'm sorry to butt in. Well, I live in Southern California, just outside Los Angeles, and I've been knitting for a really long time. I don't think I learned to knit from my mother, but my mother was not a good knitter. so I put it away, and then I came back many years later, and I enjoy knitting all kinds of different things. I wanted to show, though, I'm really bad at reading the charts. And so I just wanted to show my markers. Can you see all the markers?
Right.
I put a marker every 10 stitches practically, so that I can catch any mistakes that I'm constantly making. And,
Well, I want to encourage
and I do
all
it
of
in
you
different
also.
colors, that I use the colors on the chart so I can,
Right.
you might be able to see that the colors repeat in each group. So that way I can catch my mistakes, and I find that's just calms me down. I'm less worried about losing stuff. But I really haven't figured out, this is the first time that Irina knows, because I've been struggling with what to do with this pattern. And I decided to, I made a big swatch, and because I wasn't sure I was really going to stick with doing the whole thing in this really small gossamer thread, it's 260.
Okay.
And I'm getting used to it. I did try different needles till I found some that I could handle better. But I don't know how to put a lifeline in this. It's really, especially because is there such a thing as an interchangeable needle at 0?
Yeah, they have it. Yeah.
Tiago
has it. Adi has it. So you can just get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a little tutorial on showing how to put the lifeline if you don't have interchangeable needles. So just it's out there and everybody can use it.
Yeah.
I wanna also recommend, like, I'm using this kind of tape. You can usually buy it in your local yarn store or online, and it's very easy to move. And I put it under the row that I'm knitting, so it makes it much easier to see, because it just like it blocks the rest of the chart. So some of you might use Knit Companion, but this is my slow fashion idea of Knit Companion. I guess I just use this tape and I find it very useful. You can also just print 2 copies of the charts and just use highlighter and like cross the line, the row that you already finished, just to make it easier for your eyes to see the chart, because the chart is relatively small. I also want to encourage you to try to memorize as you knit what you're knitting, because what you're gonna find out, like once you become a little bit more experienced in Shetland lace knitting, you're gonna notice that a lot of things repeat themselves, like a lot of little elements repeat themselves. And you're gonna catch yourself just glancing at the row and being able, so like when I knit now, I don't look at every square of the chart. I usually just glance at the chart and I know how to knit it. Like it makes it much faster once you learn how to knit your knitting. And the way to do it, when you come to like any knit two together yarn over, when it comes to like yarn overs, right? Glance below, like what's underneath? Is it what's supposed to be on the chart? So like train yourself to stop and admire your knitting, because this way you'll spot the mistakes that much faster. You know, the faster you can find those mistakes, the easier it is to fix them. The less frogging you have to do, the less frustrating it is. And that's where the stitch markers come very useful, but it's also like training yourself to like read your lace. So just like slow down, don't rush through this project. Don't try to get first to the finish line. Use it as like learning opportunity to learn how to read your lace. And for me, it's like still an ongoing process. Like for the person like Monique Boonstra, she can actually look at any knitted shawl and she can chart it from the shawl. I would struggle with that still, but I noticed that like the longer I'm doing it, the less I'm looking at the chart. Like I'm just glancing at the chart at this point. So it's, for me, it's like it takes the first. So last time I knitted Shetland lace was basically when I finished the Sorceress. And since then, like it was like at least 6-7 months that I haven't touched fine lace. And so when I started this project, I was very rusty. Like I felt like I'm looking at every stitch and I'm looking at my hands all the time. And after like the first 10 rows, you're getting into the rhythm, you're getting sort of the hang out of it. But like slow yourself down and look at the chart and try to look at your knitting and see if you can find those stitches, if you can recognize them, because that's going to help you. The longer you knit this shawl, the faster it's going to go with this. Just like train yourself to read your knitting. It's like one of the helpful skills. And also, depending on the color of your yarn, it's really helpful to have contrasting background. So let's say, like in my case, I have this dark purple. What I do is I put a piece of paper on my lap, and then it's very easy to see the yarn. If you have white yarn, put black pens on, like put something dark as a background, because that's gonna show you the stitches, like it's just gonna be easier to see the stitches. It's also, I find it like extremely important to have good light with Shetland lace, because we all complain about our eyesight, but it's less about the eyesight and it's more about good light, good natural light. So if you have northern window where there is indirect sun, try to knit, like it's better to knit like fewer rows but with the good natural light than to like torture yourself at night with the electric light. Sometimes you can just like, you go blind if the needle, the metal needle suddenly starts shining that electric light in your eyes, and suddenly you're going blind from that, you know. So be kind to yourself, don't rush it. Enjoy the process, try to admire your lace often, and that's going to help you to find those mistakes. That's my advice.
Could I say one thing about that? You said to put the tape underneath the row, but if you put the tape
above or below,
if you put it above the row, then you are reading what you've just done. Right. So that can help you too if you make a mistake. I think I learned that from some book.
Right. The reason I like to put it underneath of the line is because it moves me closer to the end of the chart and it gives me a sense of accomplishment. But whatever way works for you, there's no right or wrong in that.
And I would add one more thing, and then I'll get off. But I think that you're very good at what I would call sequencing. You can memorize 10 or 12 stitches. And I know my own learning style, I can't do that as well. So I really, I do think it's important for people to recognize that some things it's going to be much harder to learn than others. Because I've knitted quite a bit of lace, but not much. This is only my second Shetland project, but I can never memorize the pattern.
No, I'm not expecting anybody to memorize the whole.
No, I understand.
But train yourself to memorize little symbols, right? Like, so you have a little diamond. Yeah. Like try to remember just part of that diamond for that row, right? So you're going to repeat it. There's like these diamonds, there's 1, 2, 3, right? So, and you have 3 repeats. So you have 9 of the same repeats, the same sequence. So like try to just remember that part and like test yourself. Like, did I remember it right? This is how it's supposed to be? And this is it's an acquired skill. It's not something that naturally came to me. Like I might be a little bit more gifted in this respect than somebody else, but that's not from just natural ability. Like I was actively trying to pay attention to it, and this is how you become better at this, like better at recognizing the patterns also. So definitely can improve on that. Lorraine, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I am curious what yarn everybody has used and what needle. I don't like to experiment. I like smaller parameters to experiment. And I am noticing that the guidelines that are out there, once you get the yarn so small, it is just, it's like a wasteland of no information.
So basically like any cobweb or thinner will work for this specific thing.
And then what size needle? So what, for your yarn, how many yards a gram is the one that you're using?
So
And
mine is 2,800 meters per 100 grams
okay,
on 2 millimeter needles.
okay, that
So-
helps. That gives me an idea if that's what you're using and I aim for that. And I've experimented with this fine yarn that I had in my stash. And I'm realizing, oh, it's not as intimidating as I thought.
Oh, it's
And-
not.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to recommend also to everyone, what I like to do is to block it, basically like half dry, half wet blocking as I go, because that also, first of all, it opens up the lace so you have something to admire. Secondly, it's like easier to spot the mistakes as well. So what I usually do, like I need for a day, let's say how many hours, right? Like let's say you need a couple hours, and then just put it on the blocking mat, spray it lightly with water, and just spread it a little bit with your hands. You don't have to like block it like you would block at the end. Just spread it a little bit and you'll see it's basically like seeing a butterfly emerging from cocoon. Like it's the most wonderful sensation ever. And so that helps, it's like the more joy you can get out of this process. It can be difficult, but it's also so rewarding to see it grow and to see it blossom. So treat yourself for occasional mini blocking, basically. I call it dry blocking because you can just spread it with the needles, but like I like to just spray it like super lightly with just spray bottle and spread it. So like take that swatch that you just did, right? And play with it and see how it's gonna open up. And then you can decide like if, depending on your tension, like some people prefer tighter lace, some people prefer looser lace. You don't want it to be like all holes, but you want some fabric to it. But it's all depends on like your individual tension, basically.
Well, for this yarn, this one, I know I don't have enough. I only have 2 balls of this. I
Yeah.
know that this is not going to finish the project. So it's buying something. And then it's like, well, if I'm not doing, let's say I go up a size, if I'm looking at the Color Mart, there is the Zegna Barufa, which is a 228. Let's say I get that it has really good, high recommendations. It's not as intimidating as a gossamer. How do I know how many scones of it I need? Because I just changed everything.
Right. Basically, like the shawl asks for 1,500, I believe, meters. So like if you're going thicker, like probably like add another 30-40%, you should be fine. Yeah. Oh, you muted now. Erica, did you wanna add something? You have the hand up. Or is it from the last time?
I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand down. When
Okay.
you're talking about needles, I ended up going with a 2 millimeter wood needle because I have metal needles, but for me, they're too slippery. I have very big hands, so I needed a little more control. And because it's not in my hands, it's in my needle. So that's my only suggestion there.
Right.
Thank you.
What yarn did you use? What's yours?
It was something that was just given to me. Our Wool Workers Guild had folded and they were clearing out. So it's 100% wool. I have no idea where it's from. It's probably from the 80s and it says Jaya Shri, but it's 2,000 meters to 100 grams. So it's fine, 2/40. It's what I had and it seems to be working out just fine. But I love Irina's suggestion to try blocking what I have here to look.
Yeah,
So.
it's just like, I mean, first of all, it's like the 5 minutes in your day that makes you really happy.
Yeah.
So why not?
I'll do that. Thank you.
And it's also like, it also sort of shows you how the fabric is going to look overall. So if you guys on Facebook, so Monique has a group called Find Shetland Lace. I don't know if all of you are members there. I encourage you to join that group because there are a lot of like real experts of Shetland lace there. There are a lot of Shetlanders there who knitted lace all their lives. So there's like a lot of information. And in the files, Monique has this little demo of where she knits the same exact little motif with different size needles. And you see how different the lace looks depending on the size of the needles. And it's just like quarter size bigger suddenly makes like tremendous difference. So you might want to play with this swatch for two reasons. First of all, to see what kind of fabric you prefer. And there is really like no hardcore guidelines. It's sort of like your personal preference. I like my lace to be very airy. Some people prefer it like more tight fabric. So it's like what you prefer. But if you knit the same little thing a couple times, you can see like which fabric you like better. And you also familiarize yourself, like your hands getting used to knitting without the stress of like being in the middle of the pattern. So by the time you start the actual pattern, you're actually flying through it because you already like, you are a pro, like you already done the swatch and your hands are used to it, your eyes are used to the chart reading, so it's much faster. So like I would recommend, if you haven't started yet, try swatching a couple different needle sizes, block them, spray them lightly, block them, and see which way you prefer it. It might save you time later on. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves? Angela, do you wanna?
Sure, I can. So I'm Angela. I live in North Idaho, and I started crocheting in the third grade. My third grade teacher taught me. I struggled with knitting back then, but I picked up knitting again and have been going for about 20 years now. I just finished winding my first skein of yarn while we were on this Zoom, which is a Malabrigo lace, and I couldn't find gossamer. I'm not intimidated, but I just could not find a source. So I'll have to go look at the Color Mart site. This yarn to me looks more like fingering weight than lace. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to start out with let's see, you guys are talking in millimeters. I'm going to use a US 2 needle to start, maybe a 3. I normally don't swatch. And Irina, I heard what you just said, you know, the recommendation. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I kind of live on the edge when it comes to swatching and when it comes to lifelines. Normally I knit hats for my local community, socks and shawls, but not Shetland shawls. So I'm excited and I'm happy to meet all of you and look forward to seeing everyone's progress and learnings.
I have a little confession. In all my Shetland lace knitting, I have never swatched once, so no judgment here at all. It's just something you might want to do. It's recommended by experts. I'm not an expert, I'm just one of us knitters, so haven't done it myself, but like I can see the benefit of it from other people. I also probably use Lifeline just a few times in my Shetland lace knitting as well. One time I really deeply regretted not using Lifelines was when I was knitting Little Secret by Monique Boonstra, and my phone rang, and nobody calls me on my house phone. It's just telemarketers, basically. I don't know why I jumped and like decided to go get the phone, and the whole thing fell off my needles, and so those stitches, like wild little bugs running in every different direction. And it took me over an hour and 30 rows down to catch all the stitches. So
oh my gosh,
I recommend it. You know, if you like to live dangerously, you do it at your own risk, like I did. But just keep in mind that sometimes it's like they call them lifelines for a reason. You know, sometimes it might be a good idea that just to put it like occasionally. You know, like not necessarily every 5 rows, but like, you know, every 20 rows, let's say. So,
okay, great.
Anybody else wants to introduce themselves? Well, I'm so glad you guys all joined me. I'm really grateful for your support and your company, and it's going to be fun to learn. I'm also open to suggestions. If you're running into some problem or if there is some question that you would like me to put a tutorial together, send me a quick email. It's again, fiberchats@gmail.com, and just say like, oh, is there a tutorial for this kind of thing? Patrick, join me.
So I think I get this whole triangle thing now, and I'm gonna try and see if I can say it out loud so that I'm thinking through this properly. So the first time you come to the triangle, you're doing the knit, well,
Knit 3 together, basically.
decreasing by 2, right?
Right.
So it's knit 3.
Yeah, on row 6, the first time you come to the triangle, it's you decreasing by 2. So you do the double, the
Right.
center double decrease.
And then every subsequent one is just by 1.
No. So every time you come to this point, it's gonna be center double decrease. The only time it's gonna be knit 2 together is the very, very last one.
Oh, okay.
So it's,
that's better. That makes sense now.
Basically like center double decrease every time except for the last time. Or if you do row 9, the first time it's gonna be knit 2 together, and then it's gonna be center double decrease all time. So depending on the direction of your knitting, if it's at the end of the row, it's gonna be the last time you get to this point. If it's at the beginning of the repeat, then it's going to be the first time you get to this triangle.
Okay. I'll have to write that down.
Well, you know how to find me also. So like if you forget about that, just ask again. Alina, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
This is going to be, thank you. This is going to be my second Shetland lace. I did monogamy with you, and I am finishing ending to row 80.
That's so beautiful. I love it.
I'm using Hapsalu yarn, which is Lithuanian yarn, thin wool. And I also got stuck on row 6, and I reached out to you. So when you explained to me that we have 2 together and then basically center double decrease, which is 3 together, that made sense because I reread Monique's explanation, and she just tries to explain it more, I guess, you know, for everyone. But what got me finally where she says, you will get it when you get to the triangle. And so exactly when you start knitting and you get to those 3 stitches in the middle and the marker moves, then it kind of clicked. So I, you know, was able to do that. And so I'm just really enjoying this. And today is a difficult day for me because I'm Ukrainian. It's been 2 years since it started there. So this is helping me to kind of keep it together. So it's really good to meet all of you. And I think we're going to end up with some beautiful works.
Well, it looks beautiful already. Another thing I wanted to mention, when you guys I just want to say it out loud now because we're going to get to that point. When you come to the edging, when we're done with the body of the shawl and you come to the edging, you're going to try to read the instructions ahead of time and see if you can understand them. I would encourage you not to do that and wait until you actually get there and read it like word by word as you need, because it's all gonna like make sense once you have it on your needles. If you try to like figure it out before time, you're just gonna get yourself flustered and confused. So sometimes like not rushing ahead of time is a good thing also. Patrick, did you want to ask something else? Or you had this?
No, I have to get to that row to see if I understand applying it.
Okay,
I'm a practical learner sometimes too.
We'll do it together. I want to thank all of you for joining me today, and we're gonna do this again. We're probably gonna I'm gonna post, so please join the Fiberchats group on Ravelry. because that's where I'm going to be posting all the announcements in the Equilibrium knit along thread. I'm also usually posted on my YouTube channel in the community tab. So like you can check there, or I'll post it on Instagram. So like this is the 3 places. And I post it also on Facebook as well, in the Fine Shetland Lace. So just keep an eye open. I hope you can all join me again. It's probably going to be in a couple of weeks. I'm going to let everybody knit along. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, please ask them in the threads on the Ravelry group, and we're going to try to answer it. If you need one-on-one help, I'm available. So just poke me and we'll do something together. We'll get through this together. Thank you so very much to all of you for joining today, and I'll see you guys next week, in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.